we have one of the co-directors here, Bertrand Loyer, who is from France. And the film has been nominated for Best Feature Documentary, Best Visual Effects, VFX, and Best Science Film. And we are so pleased to welcome you to GeekFest Toronto, Bertrand.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me here. I'm so honored to have so many nominations. I'm going to turn pink or red in a minute. But apart from that, it's been a labor of love. Those films, basically, we started writing those films in 2015, believe it or not. So it took us a while to have them existing. I'm saying these films because there is a companion to this Planetary Defense. There's another one called Destination. And believe it or not, we are also preparing an IMAX release, which is going to be premiered in Hollywood, in Los Angeles by mid-March.
My very first question, let's be honest, we know that you made this film for a general audience, but are you also not making this film for our leaders, our political leaders, and to kind of shake them into realizing how important this issue is?
Yeah, good question. The film will be a cherry on a cake, I will say, because scientists are doing every year a simulation where they gather into a room and recreate what will be an alert of an asteroid that has been detected at the last minute and how to avoid a collision. So our show is basically taking the bigger picture, which is reminding to the audience what major accident did happen in the past, in the 20th century and in the last 100 years. So we had serious events and what can be next, what can happen to us, in the near future with, asteroid, but as well with space junk, which is another type of meteor that can fall on our head.
Your passion for science definitely comes through in how you treat the subject matter. I have a question about the animation of dinosaurs, for example, or even the animations of space debris or asteroids coming towards Earth or even Jupiter. What amazing footage. Can you tell us a little bit about how that was created?
Yeah, definitely. So we've got, since 2014, we now have an in-house VFX company. And the trick for us to make things believable is just to intertwine what we call the backplate, so which is live footage, with a subtle dose of animation. So there is even some of the animation you haven't seen because they are very discreet. Like some of the sparks that have been added to the scene into the slow-mo footage of the Tunguska event. Passing in front of the tent, all those kind of things. And then on this show, we had to use some of the footage that has been delivered to us by NASA or the space agencies, and we mapped them and created some 3D objects. And we had also to do some guesswork because, believe it or not, by the time we were doing the show, the Didymos and Dimorphos asteroid had only been seen from a serious distance. And so not only we had to guess their aspects, but we also had to guess with physics equation the size of the crater that would have been produced on Dimorphos moon. And so it was guesswork, but just best guess estimate. And we've been super lucky, because the shape of Dimorphos is exactly as we guessed it, and the size of the crater is exactly the one that happened during the collision. So that's just kind of mixing between science and VFX. So of course, what does that mean? We are just doing some coding. So we are just translating the scientific equations into the VFX. And so we are using before the render and before the lighting and all those kind of things, some equation in the code, and we translate that into the image you've seen.
Well, the images are absolutely amazing, very impactful, but I'll also underline the fact that they're supported by incredible music by Samuel Safa. What's the
Yeah,
story with your link with Samuel Safa? Apparently, he does a lot of music for video games.
yeah, yeah. It's we've been collaborating since 2015, and we have always had a lot of discussion on music from day one. The shark film was even thought with music during the filming. When I was flying the drone, I was always thinking music before when I was just flying above sharks in Brazil. In that case, Sam had a bit of more liberty, and he pushed me to some extreme, using some of actually the musicians, well-known musicians from the feature film industry, to create this original soundtrack with natural instruments. And like Hans Zimmer is mixing the natural instrument with some more digital instruments and creates those very unique sounds. And we use actually the cello player from Hans Zimmer, a girl called Guo Zuo, I think something like that. And she's actually just doing a lot of work with Hans Zimmer, just using the sound of the violin just to create some emotion, but mixing it into an atmosphere. And like Christopher Nolan, we've been using something called the shepherd tone, which means increasing gradually the intensity of the music through a sequence, and that have a fantastic effect, that shepherd tone, because you don't want to leave your seat. You just want to be there until the end of the action takes place.
Brilliant, brilliant execution. Now, here's a more of a nitty-gritty kind of question.
Yeah.
How on earth did you guys get to Sudan? Isn't that kind of a difficult country to get footage from Sudan?
Yeah, Sudan, that footage, it's a mix of footage and recreation. So some of the existing material was there, and then we were actually shooting in Morocco, because basically the story was the same. Just the landscape were exactly the same. And so we did recreate Sudan, especially during COVID, you can imagine, in Morocco. And actually our DOP was trapped in Morocco because all the borders were closed during COVID. So it's been an interesting story of rescuing a DOP from Morocco.
Yes, Bertrand, I wanted to ask you a few questions about creating the film itself in the mediums. You had mentioned that you do have make the films for giant immersive screens like IMAX and things like that. So that means that people are be watching your film in all sorts of different ways. They will be watching it on the computers. What do you have to think about as far as creating an IMAX film?
Well, it's just we are pretty lucky on that show because we had a lot of VFX. So once you got VFX and render farms, then you can just render a show for 4K, like the one you saw tonight or today. And then we just increase the resolution and the shape of the lens to make a dome version, or we create an extra eye to create the 3D version for a flat screen. And so this is what we're gonna premiere in Los Angeles. Of course, a bit of the film is made with live imagery, but we did shoot for a while with 3D camera, 3D rigs. So we've got some sequences which are actually shot in 3D in the first place.
So do you actually have to go to an IMAX theater to see how it looks? Do you run the edits and by seeing reactions inside the theaters?
Oh yes, nonstop. For the past week, we've been 3 times to a 3D theater to see what works and what does not work. That's an important part of the work, and I was there this morning still. It's something that a VR headset cannot tell, because the size of the screen, because of the 5.1 surround sound, because of the size of the object, and something that could look let's say acceptable on a VR is not on a big screen.
Do you have to make editorial decisions based on the various different and does the film change if you see it on an IMAX as opposed to seeing it someplace else?
Oh yes, yeah, totally. There is things you can't do. There is things you can't do for domes, for example. Domes, the camera movements, you only can do in or out. But if you do sideways, because of the shape of the dome, so you're gonna make everyone sick. So you got to think differently. You got to leave all the action in the lower third of the frame, because if you put something in the middle, like you will do on TV, then the action will occur behind your head. So you don't want the audience to be like that during the whole movie, because otherwise you have to pay for neck surgery the next day. So honestly, it's just a different mindset. And then for 3D, 3D doesn't accept very much some movements which are too fast. And so you get a slow bit of the action. You have to be very careful with your foreground. If your foreground moves too fast, and it creates some ghost imagery, and this you don't want. So again, yes, we did think a lot. I mean, we had to test a lot.
Wow. So these are all different, very different media.
Yeah.
So which is your favorite to create for?
Well, honestly, 3D is very engaging. You see, if it is properly done, that's really engaging. And you know, with the diversification of the platforms these days, like Netflix, Disney, and so on, you can have a home cinema at home. So basically just on a big screen. But sharing that experience with others on a giant screen, like the Sphere in Vegas, or all kind of things, that's a different ballpark, because you can't have that at home. And so all the theaters now are trying to bring something different. Hey, you're going to have Dolby Atmos. Hey, you're going to have a dome. Hey, you're going to have 3D. All those things you can't have at home. And that brings the audience into a theaters. So for us, as science filmmakers and documentary filmmakers, we are trying to bring the imagery to a next level. So we are thinking differently how to, use super wide lens for the domes, how to use mega sensors just to have the definition. How could you do some stereo underwater? We are still trying to work out the optics for those kind of things. So yeah, it's non-stamp. It's fascinating, but it's we are still independent, hallelujah. So we got a lot of flexibility in our work every day.
Well, congratulations on the film. And I'm told we have a few questions from the moderator.
Why, thank you, Thomas. What are the sort of secrets of how to negotiate on IMAX?
The thing is that I'm above 50 now, and when you start in this industry, IMAX is there is a level of investment which I couldn't have had before, and that level of investment is mixed with VFX and special equipment with large sensors. So if there is any young folks in the audience, I will say, just come and join a company like us that just can give you access to those toys, because they are super expensive. The VFX is super expensive. The camera is super expensive. So it's hard to do that. But our trick is basically, when we think of a project, we think it multimedia. So when we go on a shoot in remote locations like New Zealand, just New Caledonia, or just impossible places, we think TV, we think IMAX, we think 3D, we think dome. And so we've got all those combinations of things in mind. And so we train the DOPs just to do all those formats on the shoot for us. For example, just to make a long story short, we've got a show in preparation at the moment, which is shot in a super isolated island called Crozet, which lies halfway between Antarctica and South Africa. And they are staying there for 5 months. 5 months on this super isolated island. So to keep them busy, I gave them 6 different cameras, probably 25 different lenses, and some are made for IMAX, some are made for 3D, blah, 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 blah. So I could keep them busy doing all those versions.
You heard it here first, folks. He is recruiting. He said, join our company. So yeah, if you want to join his company, and you're curious and you are an up and coming filmmaker, that is St. Thomas Productions, St-Thomas.net, but you can find that all on our website. Bertrand, we have a question that our programmers ask everybody who's walked across our stage. And what have you learned as a filmmaker making this particular film?
Well, I've learned about a lot of physics about asteroid, of course, but I've learned how lucky we are to live on that planet with an atmosphere that can protect us from space bombardment. Should you be living on the moon, for example, and I wish good luck to anyone who's going to be on the moon base, there is no atmosphere to protect you from anything that falls from the sky. Our atmosphere burns absolutely everything, or almost everything that just comes from the sky, unless the object is super big. So yeah, just what I've learned is that we are lucky on this small planet.